even online.
Yeah, I can just start. I mean, the first part is pretty basic, so.
Yeah, and let me know, care if you get winded or something. I can do a couple modules or whatever you
Okay.
want. Just let me know.
All right, I'm gonna share my screen. Uh, so Pat and Joe, if you have any questions why we're going through this, just interrupt. It's very informal. Um, so our software is web-based. So all you'll need is internet access. So whether it's on your laptop or if it's, you can access it on your iPhone, tablet, and you just need this URL. This is the login page here. It'll be your email address and then your password. Now, the first time that your account is set up, you'll get an email from the support email with the URL for the software and a temporary password. When you log in for the first time, you'll use that temporary password and it will ask you to change your password, and it can be whatever you would like. Now, the software is hosted on AWS, Amazon Web Services. Now, what that means is that it is not connected to the Canon network. So once your computer password expires or your email password expires, this password is not linked to that, so it will not expire. If you ever forget your password, you'll just click this forgot password link, type in your email address, and then another temporary password email will come to you. It may go into your junk mail, that's just the way the filters in our emails happen. So if you don't receive it within a couple of minutes, look in your junk mail. If you still don't receive it, contact Matt or I, and we can figure out what's going on. So I'm just gonna log in. Now, once you log in, if it's your first time logging into the software, it will bring you to this page here. And this would be your list of clients that you have access to. So, for example, myself, I have access to every single client that we have ever assessed. So you'll see like Baltimore County Schools, Bay Health Medical, which is an old project. So your first time logging in, you may only see one or two clients. As you keep on getting into projects, you'll have more clients added. So I will go back to Ohio State. So you'll just click select and it'll bring you to this page. Now, every time you log in after the first time, it will bring you to the client that you were last logged into. So when I logged in the first time, it just brought me into the Ohio State project because that's where I was logged in yesterday. What else can I say about that? And let's see. So this landing page here, some clients you'll see this dashboard. This dashboard will be blank. Some clients have access to the software. Some clients do not. It just depends on what agreement we have with them, whether they signed a subscription agreement. Ohio State has a subscription agreement, and they do have access to the software. So there are some added things in Ohio State that may not be in other projects that you do. So
Tara?
here, yep.
Excuse me for 1 second. Not that it's germane to my job or anything like that, but just out of curiosity, is there a way when you're logged in as one of us that you can tell whether they're a subscriber or not?
No, there is not. That's all external right now.
Okay.
And it really doesn't affect what the assessors do or pretty much anything. Viewing wise, they're just like this either may be blank. This dashboard here may be blank or it may not. The other thing that is nice is you can have multiple screens open of Ohio State at once, and I'll show you where that may be helpful in a project. But so you have this home landing page, then there's this dashboard module. Now this dashboard module for Ohio State is populated a lot. There's a lot of other dashboards, some assessment, Power BIs, cost warehouse, Power BI dashboards, some PDFs, I think some Excel files maybe. This dashboard allows us to upload PDF, Word documents, Excel documents, images, any type of data source, static data source, basically. This information, like these Power BIs, are not connected directly to the data here, meaning you can go in the dashboard if you have access to it. You can play around and click. You will not change any of the data. So these are kind of nice if you're a visual person. These were for, like I said, for Ohio State for meeting purposes with them. But for assessment wise, all of your data is going to be in the data module, all the information that you're going to populate. So a client is set up, you have your client, the Ohio State. Now we have portfolios. So in this case, there's two portfolios. We have the Ohio State internal assessment and the Ohio State University. Now, Ohio State is a unique situation where FOSS is doing an FCA assessment, and Ohio State has their own internal assessment team. So we're training them on how to assess their buildings in a different way. You can have one portfolio or many. Then within each of the portfolio, well, before I get there, you have this data grid. Has your number of sites, your current replacement value, the square foot, your current replacement value per square foot, your 5 and 10-year needs, and then your 5 and 10-year facility condition index. This calculation just will take your 5-year needs and divides them by your current replacement value. And then the same thing for your 10-year facility condition index. It's your 10-year needs divides it by your current replacement value. This FCI, or facility condition index, is an industry standard. You'll see this data grid pretty much static on a lot of these pages in the data module. There just may be a couple of fields that are added to it. So if I click on the Ohio State University, it'll bring me to this one site. Site could be region. It could be, I like to use it could be like for the University of Buffalo, you could have North Campus be a site and South Campus be a site. Some schools we've done, you'll have your sites be, well, you could have your portfolios be, say if I go up one level to portfolios, you could have your high school, middle schools, administrations, and then within each of those portfolios, you could have your, high school 1 as a site, high school 2 as a site, and then have all those buildings within those high schools in the correct site. But this data grid, like I said, stays pretty much the same with a couple of additive fields. You have your region factor, which is just a factor that is applied to the site to help calculate the correct cost. You have your city if that's filled in, and then the number of buildings that are within each of the sites, and then your current replacement value through your 10-year facility condition index. To get to those buildings, I'll just click on the site name, and it will load the buildings. So here are the list of buildings that are within the site. You have your building name, your building number, your address, year built, last renovation, assessment date, and then your current replacement value through your 10-year FCI. This page is sorted alphabetically by building name. These headers are sortable. So if you were looking for 0001, if I double click on the building, well, if I click on the building number, it will sort numerically for you or alphabetically. What else can I tell you about this page? I guess I'll just go into the agricultural administration building. Now, once I get into the building, this is where all of your data is. Matt and I, when you set up a project, or when we set up a project, Matt and I will set up the portfolio, we'll set up the sites, we'll set up the buildings. So you don't have to ever worry about assessor-wise having to add buildings, add locations, or any of that. You'll just have to worry about going out, doing your assessment, coming back in and adding assessment items and adding some general information. Within each building, we have a couple of subset of tabs. So the first one is your discipline tab. This tab, this is where you're going to add all of your assessment items, and I'm going to go through that in a minute. I just want to hit on some of the other tabs in here. You have your general information tab. Now, this tab here, Matt and I will pre-populate. Ignore this description. This is a read-only text box here. I'll show you where you will put your general descriptions for each of the uniformat items, the summaries. So you have your department, title, what type of building it is, the address, the square footage, when you went out into the field, original field date, last major renovation. I would say that Matt and I get a lot of this information, the address and the square foot, when it was built about 90% of the time. Sometimes we don't get the information. I believe that it is the field PM that has to come in and just make sure that this is all filled in. So if you're not the field PM, I would just check it. If you know the information, fill it in. If you don't, maybe ask. Just make sure that it is filled in before reports go out. If you make any changes, you'll just scroll down to the bottom and click the save button, and then everything will be saved. If you do not change anything, you do not need to click the save button. You can just navigate to a different tab or page. The general description. So you go out, you assess your building, you come back in. These are broken out into level 2 uniformat. So if I was doing, say, architecture, if I was the architectural assessor, I would come back in and say, okay, I looked at the structure and I'm going to write in here just what the structure consists of. It's reinforced cast in place concrete with floor slabs, substructure frame with masonry walls. Perfect. I would do exterior vertical enclosure, exterior horizontal enclosures, interior finishes, and I would type in my little paragraph. Now in these paragraphs, just descriptions. So we don't want to see that something's in poor condition or that it needs to be replaced in X number of years. That information is going to be stored in the discipline tab. So this is purely what is there, what does the building consist of. If you are I think it's the architectural assessor, they will also populate this general description. They're saying that it was completed in 1956. Who built it, who was the contractor, and all this good stuff. Once you get access to the software, we'll give you access. If you're not going to be on Ohio State, we'll probably give you read-only access to it so you can look around and see the information, because this project is a really good example of the correct way to fill out data. So once you type in your little paragraph or a couple of sentences, you'll just click the save button under every single text box you fill out. So if I made any changes to general description, I'll click the save button and it will turn green and say saved. And then if you do not want to update anything, just navigate away from the page and nothing will be saved. The next tab here is ADA. So even though not every project we do is a ADA assessment, we do provide our clients with a general overview of what their ADA rating is. This is usually, once again, done by the architectural assessor or the head person who is assessing the building. This is pretty much, can I get into the building? Can I get out? Do I have access to the restrooms? It's a 1 through 5 rating. So they just go through and you'll put 1 through 5, and then this will just give you your average rating. It does not, this shows up in our deliverable report, and I'll show you what the page is once we get into the report section. It just says it's an observation, it's not a study, and there is, I think there's a little bit of detailing that goes into 1 is bad, 5 is good. So like if there's no ramp to get into the building, then you might want to put a 1, because you know, somebody can't in a wheelchair or who can't use stairs cannot get into the building. Photos and files. So for every building you assess, you'll want to take a primary image or an outside image of the building. Somebody has uploaded 2 images here. You'll see that one of them is checked off as the main. Now what this means is when an image is uploaded and you select it as a main, that image will show up on the cover page for that building's deliverable report. If I uncheck this and press the save button, and then I go into the reports module and run the deliverable report, there will be no primary image that will show up on the deliverable report. So just make sure that there is a primary image uploaded by checking that and saving it. If you need to delete an image, if you upload the wrong building, you can just click this delete button, press the save, and then this image will be deleted from the software for you. You can upload any type of documents. So in this, on this page, mostly you'll see just images. Sometimes you'll see PDFs. You could see Excel documents here, Word documents. Ohio State is unique where we did upload some floor plans. So if I click on this PDF, it will open up the Agriculture Administration floor plan for us. So you can see all of the floor plan of the building. Not every client will have this information. It just depends on the scope of work. I would say most of the time this tab here will just have your primary image for your building. Now you get into asset tracking. So I'll just do a brief overview because I'll do the disciplines and then this tab. So for Ohio State, the scope of work was a facility condition assessment with asset tracking. So we're able to print out QR codes and attach them to panel boards or elevators, overhead door openers, and record some information. Then when the client is out in the field and they see this tag and they want to see what the information is, they can just scan the QR code and our software will pop up right to that page. But I'll go through that in a minute. Then we have this ECM tab. There's only a couple of clients that we've done ECM projects. It's energy conservation measures. Orange County is a good example of an ECM assessment, the libraries. So we can take a look at that. What this allows us to do, if I press add, and it allows us to search for a uniformat item, and I will just do panel boards. It doesn't really matter what it is. But it allows us to record an ROI for updates when something else should be repaired or replaced. And then it allows us to do some utility baseline costs. It'd be more helpful if we actually had data in it. Some of these fields, like you can just type in here. A lot of these calculations have to do with some of the fields in the general information. So Pat, let's get together and go over Orange County for this.
Sure. Am I correct in assuming the implication here is that if you replaced an existing asset with a more fuel efficient or
Yeah, like it could be like windows.
gotcha.
That is one. Um, like I said, we've only done a couple of studies, or I should say assessments. Orange County is one of them, and that has really good data in it. If we are ever going to, as an assessor, if we are ever going to do an ECM assessment, we would bring in somebody else at this point right now to help us out with doing this. So I'm just going to click delete because I don't want to save this record. It's going to ask me to confirm. And okay, it's deleted. Now, the last two tabs here, you have floors and locations. So Matt and I will set up this for you or for everybody when we set up the project. Most of the time our assessments are by floor. So we'll see in this tab here, you'll see the floor for first floor, and then you'll see a room and location for first floor. This column, room and locations, these are the locations that will show up in your discipline tab to select from for a location for where is that boiler, where does this carpet need to be replaced, and the drop down box. So you will always see building exterior, entire building, partial building, roof, or site. Like I said, a lot of the time, our assessments are done by floor. Our facility condition assessments will never be room by room. You may see in here, if you ever navigate in here, if we're doing a KPI assessment, you may see some rooms that show up in here, but our assessments are never done room by room for FCA purposes. You may see some other locations, maybe like 1960s first floor addition. I can't think of other ones right now, but for the most part, I would say they're by floor. Then there's this job tracking. I'm not quite sure if anybody uses this. Are you, Matt? Yeah, I'm not sure if anybody's using this right now, but this was built to hopefully get all of our job tracking done into the software. So this is here. If we start using it, hopefully soon, you'll just go in and say, okay, everything should be blank, but if you're doing exterior envelopes, you'll say, oh, I completed the field work. And then you would come in once you're done doing all of your QA QC on your data and say, oh, I finished, the office is complete. If there's any comments, and then you would just click save to save your changes. Now I'll get into the good stuff, the discipline module or tab. So since this assessment is done, you'll see that there's some data filled out here. If this is a new building, everything will say 0, and then your 5-year and 10-year, this is a discipline condition index, will say 0. You have architectural, civil, communications, electrical, fire protection, mechanical, plumbing, safety, security, and structural. It tells you the number of assessment items within each of those disciplines, and then your current replacement value per square foot, your 5 and 10-year needs, and your 5 and 10-year discipline condition index. So it's just the cost for each of the disciplines going across. And then the bottom is your total. And then these two here are your facility condition index. So these actually do the calculation. Your 5-year needs divides it by your total current replacement value. And this is your 10-year needs divides it by your current replacement value. So there is that. This total here doesn't total up this way. It actually does your total your total current replacement value divides it by your current square foot. If I want to search or look for a item, a couple ways you can do that. If you know your assessment item falls within electrical, you can just click your electrical discipline and it'll populate and show up all of the electrical assessment items that have been added. So that's one way to do it. Whoops. The other two ways is to utilize this search bar. So if I'm looking for a panel board, I can type in panel, whoops, and press search. Now, when I press search, if I type in panel like I did, it'll populate anything that has an item name with panel in it. So you'll see that there's an interior floating panel partition, a sound absorbing wall paneling, and then there's some panel boards. So that's one way to do it. You also can search based on your uniformat number or even this unique identifier item ID. The other way my favorite way to find an item, because I'm not sometimes I get confused if something's in safety and security or if it's in communications. Myself, I'm not an architect, I'm not an engineer, so sometimes I get confused on where items are. My favorite way to find items or look at items is if you leave this search bar blank and press search all assessments. This is going to show you every single item that has been added. So all of the assessment items, regardless of the discipline. So if I scroll through, you'll see you have, I know this is safety and security. You have some electrical items. You'll see all of your architectural items. So you'll see, I think there was 85 items. You should see 85 items in this list. Now, if I want to search for go a little bit further, say, okay, now I see everything, and now I'm looking for, say, light fixtures. If this is a Google Chrome feature, this is not a software feature. If I press Control F, it'll bring up your find, just like you do in a Word document or in a PDF. If I start typing in lighting, you'll see that on the screen, things start to turn yellow. So I can do light fixtures and, well, this is orange. So it'll go right to that item. So you can do it on obviously whatever you see. If I knew what the unique identifier was, I could use the find like that as well. But this is my favorite way to find an item for the most part. I find it to be quicker and easier than trying to guess what discipline it is, especially if I'm not quite sure if something's in, like I said, communication or safety and security. But this data grid that shows up is standard no matter how you look through your item, whether you click on the discipline or you search for it. You have your item ID, which is a unique identifier. This is database driven. This number is never going to be repeated within Ohio State or any other client. You have your uniformat number. So sometimes you'll see that it's a level 3, which is D7050. That means it's, or D7010, I'm sorry, or C2050. These are system assessment items. And then you get down to the component assessment like this. You have D5020.10.21, 12, 0, 20H. And then you have your title, which sometimes it's the uniformat item. We can overwrite this, so it could be something unique, and I'll show you that in a minute. Your tag, your priority, all of the other fields come from the data within each of the assessment items. So I'm going to search for a panel board, and I'll open up this guy. So I just click on the item ID, and it will open up the edit page, the long form page for the assessment item. This page stays the same no matter if I'm looking at an electrical item, mechanical, or architectural. The fields are all the same. So it's broken up into a couple of different sections. You have your general information. What is the uniformat number and the uniformat name? What is this item ID or assessment number? Now you get into type. I would say 99.9% of the time, you can leave it at the default of component assessment. What this means is that all the cost for this item is going to be calculated towards the current replacement value and the action cost and the facility condition index for the building as a whole. The other option is inventory tracking. Now, the inventory tracking, once again, the fields do not change, but what that just means is the cost for this item will not be calculated towards the current replacement value or the facility condition index. I only can think of, in my 10 years here, a couple of times where we've used this. The first time, a client just wanted to know how many like smart boards they had in the building, but we weren't calculating that towards the current replacement value. So we just made it inventory tracking. The other reason why we use this is once we turn over the software to a client, sometimes clients don't like to delete things. So if, for example, they replaced this panel board, they replaced it. It needed to be replaced, like this says, this needs to be replaced. Instead of deleting this item or updating it to show that it's a new panel board, they'll make this inventory tracking, and then so now all of this, the cost information will not count towards the current replacement value, and they'll add a new panel board in. You don't really need to worry about that scenario, but that's just another way that is used. You have this tag here. This is where you can input a QR code, and I'll show you what that looks like in a minute. You have your location. So you have entire building, partial building, first floor, fourth floor. My suggestion, or what I say is, if you're inputting an item for, say, a boiler and it is located in the basement, the location should say basement. If you are looking at an item, say it's a carpeting item, and you're, saying you're writing one carpeting record for the entire building, then I'll say, okay, put the location at entire building, but specify in your description or your critical issues as to where the carpet needs to be replaced at. Your area served is what area does the building serve. So, that boiler record, maybe the location says basement, but it serves the whole entire building. So you will put entire building there. It could say partial building. You could type out if it was the carpeting record, you could have your location be at entire building or partial building, and you could say that this serves, room 101, room 102, and so on and so forth. Your year of installation can only be 1 year. When you add an item, and we'll show you that also, by default, you have to either choose the building, the year it was constructed, or the last major renovation. And then once you get to this page, you can overwrite it. If something has 2 years, say, part of it was updated in 2000 and the other one is still from the original of 1956, you'll need to choose what year to put for the year of installation. We usually say go with the older year of installation. If it's unknown and you're not sure, usually we say use the original build year, or if the building was renovated in 2010, you can put 2010. The things you cannot do is do this, 2020. You can't put 2 years like that. It will not let you save even if you put unknown. So if you're not sure, use the building build year. Now we get into our condition information. Your item name, like I said, is the uniformat name. You can overwrite this. So if we were adding specific assessment items for every single panel board here and they were labeled, you could put maybe it was like panel board A. And you could do something like that. Your description, what is this item? These are a couple of panel boards. Your condition, you have good, fair, poor, urgent, and then you have some accessibility and ADA compliant conditions. For a general facility condition assessment, you will only be using good through urgent and critical. If there are other conditions that you need to use, it will be the project manager will talk to you at the beginning of the project. Then you get into your critical issues. So what needs to be done? Now, in this, once again, we do not want to put what a condition something is in or when it needs to be repaired or replaced. That information, the condition is stored in the condition drop-down box, and when it needs to be repaired or replaced gets done in the next section under planning. So they're saying that these panel boards have exceeded their anticipated service life, and what else? Replacement components are not readily available. And that something is missing a dead front section. I don't really know what that means, but there's that. And then we have your recommendation. What are we suggesting? We're saying that they need to install a proper cover section on that one panel board, and they need to replace and retrofit some of the other panel boards. So that's what they're saying. Now, when we go through and I show you how to add an assessment item, there are some default critical issues and recommendations that get populated based on your uniformat item and the condition, the item that you select. So we'll show you that in a minute after we go through all of these fields. Comments, you'll notice as you get access to a couple of projects that we've already completed so you can look at. Comments for the most part are left blank. This information is used to a couple of things. If you need cost estimation to look at this assessment item, you can put in some comments here. Some people use it as they may put their initial in there if they know that they've double checked it and it's complete. But comments usually don't show up on our standard deliverable reports. If we need to utilize this field for reporting purposes, that will also get told during the project setup meeting. Now we get into planning. So planning is where we say when something needs to be repaired or replaced and what the priority is. Now your priority and action time frame are linked together. And this is what the default is. We do allow clients, if they have different priorities, to use maybe the naming convention, or they want to add priorities, or maybe what our default selection is for priorities and condition or action timeframes doesn't go into what they want. We can change what years fall under what priorities as well. So if something, I'm going to start at good condition. If something is in good condition, or it means it's no action, so nothing needs to be repaired or replaced, your action time frame can be or will be anything between 11 to 100 years. Now this is the default, so this could always change. But most of the time, I would say recently, it's just been the default. I feel like it goes in waves. Sometimes we end up going a couple months where clients want to use customized priorities, and then we go a couple months where they just don't care, and just our standards is fine. Next is priority 1, currently critical. Your action time frame is either going to be 0 or 1. If you put 0, there are sometimes items that are, life safety or hazard items that the client needs to address immediately. Maybe there are exposed wires in the front of a school or in a classroom that somebody can get hurt on. We probably would I would assume we would put that under priority 1 and make the action time frame 0 and notify the client immediately. There is a process in which the notification has to happen. So if you see something like that, talk to your field project manager and talk to the project manager of the client, and they should, or the internal project manager, and they should be able to navigate on the best way to contact the client and let them know. But for the most part, if you're saying something is priority 1, your action time frame should be 1. The next priority is priority 2, potentially critical. This one is pretty easy. Your action time frame is 2. Can't be anything other than 2. Priority 3, necessary, not yet critical. Your action time frame can be anywhere between 3 and 5 years. Priority 4, recommended. your action time frame can be between 6 and 10 years. Those are what you're going to be using for facility condition assessments. There is one other priority, which says does not meet standard codes, does not meet current codes or standards. Now, this action time frame can be anything between 0 or 100. We generally do not use this priority for our regular facility condition assessments. If something doesn't meet current code or standards and we're suggesting it needs to be replaced, usually we put those items at a priority 2. If you're not quite sure, you can always use this and then talk to somebody, or it will come up during QA/QC, the QC process. Now, what is nice is if I say I select a priority 1 and I make my action time frame 6, if I go to the bottom and press the save button, I will get a validation error. It will tell me that my priority and action time frame do not match and that it needs to be adjusted. So there is some validation that goes onto this page. On the add page, there is some logic that based on what you select for your action time frame, your priority will change, and we'll show you that in a second. So your action time frame, when does this item need to be repaired or replaced? Your observed remaining life is how long do these items have to last as is? So if something just needs a cover put back on, maybe we say it needs to be replaced, the cover needs to be put on immediately for, you know, the exposed components, but it could last, you know, maybe 6 more years after that, once the repair replacement is done. So then you have your BOMA life cycle expectancy. This comes from, this field is not editable. This is based off of what uniformat item you select. So sometimes you'll see 30 years, you know, sometimes you'll see 10 years. We just use this to let you know, what BOMA says. Obviously, I think interior doors, the example is like 15 years. It's super short for interior doors. Obviously, if a piece of equipment is maintained correctly, it may exceed this life cycle. Then you get into photos and files. So just like you're at the building level, you need to select a default photo, and I'll show you where that gets populated. Every assessment item you add, you need to attach some images and put captions for. If something gets uploaded and it's rotated, you can use these rotate checkboxes to make them rotate correctly. If you need to upload the wrong image and need to delete it, you'll just click this delete checkbox and then click upload and save, and that picture will be deleted. To view a larger image, you can just click on the image name and it will open up in a new tab for you. This choose file is pretty your standard choose file. Let's see if I go to downloads. You can just select as many images as you want. The more images or the larger the file, the longer it will take to upload. So if I have, let me see, say I want to upload this image. If I press upload, it'll show up here. I just press upload and save. This image has been uploaded, and now I can press this checkbox to delete it, press upload and save, and now that image is uploaded. It's pretty your basic choose file. Now, if part of the scope of work is uploading warranty information, we will upload warranty information. So you can upload just Word documents, Excel documents, manuals, any type of document that goes with this panel board, these panel boards in this case. Now the next section is risk. So you have your category, your risk of failure, and impact of failure. So if something is in good condition, nothing needs to be repaired or replaced, the default category is, I think it's NA, not applicable. I scrolled down, if I can scroll down. So it would be NA not applicable. If you're saying there is a deficiency or something needs to be repaired or replaced, you will scroll through and pick the right category. So they said for this one, it's beyond rated life. You know, is it a reliability? Is it a life safety issue? So you can choose the right category. The next is your risk of failure. So what is the likelihood that these items are going to fail? The options are high risk, medium risk, or low risk. And then you have impact of failure. So if these items fail, what impact does it have on the building? One is high impact, 2 would be medium impact, and 3 would be low impact. The next section is your costing information. You have your quantity and then your units of measure listed right next to the label. In this case, it's each. You may see that it's square foot, linear foot, CFMs, horsepower. Depending on your uniformat item that you select, the units of measure will change. It could be building gross square foot as well. In this case, like I said, it's each. So this assessment item, it says it's for 9 panel boards. Then you have your unit cost. We do have the cost for almost every single uniformat item. There are some items that have a 0 unit cost. If that is the case, there is a checkbox right here that you'll select to say that it needs cost estimation review, and our cost estimation team will look at it and populate the correct cost for you. You have your region factor. In this case, it's 0.945. This gets populated based on the site level. Your adjusted unit cost is your region factor multiplied by your unit cost. And then you have your adjustment factor. Now, I like to say this is a complexity factor. Most of the time, this will just be a 1. You don't have to worry about it. A couple of good examples are if you're looking at replacing a roof and it's on a high rise, you know, you'll put in an item for roofing. So say, I don't know, say it was a shingle roof. So you would have your uniformat item be shingles. You're saying that it needs to be replaced, but how are we going to get the item, how are we supposed to get the shingles up to the roof? Maybe there's mechanical items that are on the roof. We have to move those items, lift them up so we can replace the roof itself. So the unit cost for the uniformat item is strictly for the shingles. But in order to get the supplies up to the roof, maybe we have to rent a crane to lift all the materials up, and then also to lift the mechanical equipment off the roof so we can replace the roof. So you may have to add an adjustment factor. If you're not quite sure what the adjustment factor should be, that's when you would also use the needs cost estimation review, and I would add in a comment up here and just let the cost estimators know. Your current replacement value per square foot takes your adjusted unit cost, multiplies it by your adjustment factor, and then your quantity, and that will give you your current replacement value. And then you have your repair factor. In this case, it'll be anything between 0 and 100. It could be a decimal. 100 means that all 9 of these items need to be replaced. If maybe half of them need to be replaced, you would put your repair factor at 50. And then what your action cost is your current replacement value multiplied by your repair factor. There is some additional inventory fields. So if we do have to record capacities and horsepower, serial number, please populate it in the correct field. If it's not part of the scope of work, you can just leave them blank. If you're the type of person that needs to check things off your list, you can use this checkbox for this assessment is complete and check it off. We do record who created the item and when. So you'll see Randy Heim created this 9/9/2020, and then who last modified it. So who last clicked the save button. So Bill Buck did, and 9/25/2020. Now, if I scroll down and click the save button for today, if I do not, even if I don't change anything, my name and today's date will be associated with this assessment item. So if you do not change anything, just do not click the save button. Just navigate to a different page. Now we have client defined fields. So these client defined fields were for some bridges that we were assessing or going to assess for Ohio State. We can create client defined fields at this assessment item level, a building level, the site level, the portfolio level, and the location level. So this just means that we allowed our software to be very customizable. So if there's something that we do not currently record in our normal fields, like deck rating, superstructure rating, we can create these fields for input for them and then put them on a report. Now we have asset tags. So like I said, this assessment was a facility condition assessment with asset tagging. So instead of having to record all of this information for cost information when it needs to be repaired or replaced, the condition and what needs to be done for 9 different panel boards, we can use the asset tracking tab and just create 9 different panel boards and then link them to this item. Couple ways you can get to these items here. I can use this tag number and I will just click on this one and it will go right to this asset tracking item. The other way to get to those items, if I go back to this to the building, I can go to asset tracking and select and find that item. I'm gonna click the back button. I'll go through exactly what those fields are in a second. There is this history information. Mine is by default hidden, and we can show you where that is. This you don't need to worry about either, but you may see it if a client has access to the software and they've inputted some information. This allows our clients to record when these items were replaced, what percent was done, the amount, and a brief description, and they can have a running log of maintenance that they did on the specific item. We have a couple of different buttons here. Save record will save this item and you'll stay at this page. If it's saved successfully in green, it'll say right above the item that this item has been saved successfully. If you get a validation error, it will tell you in red what needs to be done, and then the field is highlighted in, I believe, red as well. It's like a deep red. If you're not sure what the validation error is telling you, please contact Matt or myself, or if you want to contact one of your other team members, they should be able to help you out without a problem. If I click delete button, delete record, it will give me a pop-up and saying, are you sure you want to delete this item? I can press yes or no, and then if you press yes, it'll delete it. If you press no, it won't delete it. Now, what is important to know, if I delete this record, a question may be, will it delete these asset tags as well? The answer is no, it will not. It will just unlink them from this assessment item. So you don't have to worry about that. We do take nightly backups. So if you're going through and decide to say, if you add an item today and decide you don't need it anymore and you delete it today, and then are like, whoops, I shouldn't have deleted that. There's nothing that Matt or I can do to re-add that item quickly for you. Now, the bright side, you probably still have all the pictures and all of the data to re-add that item. If you add an item today and tomorrow you accidentally delete it, Matt and I can look on a backup and grab the information. What I like to say is, if you have the information available, re-add it. If it's like 10 or 15 items that you've accidentally deleted, which could happen during an import by accident, Matt or I can get the items. But if it's just one item, it will take Matt or I longer to grab it from the back end and push it back in. Now you have 2 electrical or 2 building. If I press 2 building, it will not save the information, but bring me back to this main building page. If I click the back button. If I click 2 electrical, what it'll do is it will not save the item, but bring me back to all of my, just my electrical items. So if I was in a carpeting record, instead of saying 2 electrical, it would say 2 architectural. So whatever discipline that uniformat item that you're in falls under, that's what the label will say. The next tab is your copy. Now, what this feature allows you to do is to copy this assessment item to other buildings and other locations. So if I wanted to, if I add in building name, so I can drag and drop portfolio name, site name, and building name into this header here, and it will sort and reorder everything. So I have a Bridges portfolio, which is set as inactive, and then I have internal assessment portfolio, and then it'll show you every single building within this client. So there are quite a few buildings, and it'll show you every single location. So say I wanted to add this to, say the 6th floor, say any building that had a 6th floor. I can use this search bar to search for a location, a specific building. You could, if you could search for site in this case, it wouldn't really help us at all since there's only one site in each of the portfolios. But say I want to add this to my 6th floor. So as I start typing, it'll start filtering. So anything with a 6th floor or populated. It also populated a 16th floor and a 26th floor. That's because 6th floor is in those. So if I wanted to copy it to these records, I would just go through, make my selections, and then press copy and return. What it would do is this will copy all of the information for that item minus the images. The thinking is, even though we copied the information, maybe there is 9 panel boards in these 6 buildings, but the images of the panel board should all be the correct images for each of those buildings. The others options are copy and stay. So it would copy this item to these 6 locations, these 6 buildings, and say now I wanted to copy these items to the 17th floor. I don't even know if there is a 17th floor, but I would just go through and press 17 and anything that now maybe I wanted to just copy it to that button. I could press copy and return, copy it to this building or this location, and then go back to the original. Now, if I don't want to do anything, in this case, I will just press cancel, and it will bring me back to the original item. Does anybody have any questions on this? It was a lot, but.
I'm pretty good.
Okay, perfect.
I can't believe you're just now coming up for a breath.
I do have a tendency to.
My question is, how do you do that?
I've been doing this for a long time. And I do talk fast, so I have always have been told to slow down.
Well, this is one of the advantages of having a recording.
But I will click on 2 buildings and I'll show you how to add an assessment item, and then I'll get into these asset tags. So if I click 2 building and I want to add a new assessment item for this building, I'm going to click add new assessment. It brings me to this add page. If I click this drop down box, I should see every single uniformat item that's available to be selected. So if I scroll through, I know that these are structural items. I will see these are all structural. I'll start seeing architectural items. If I keep going through, these are all architectural, you have interior finishes, I have, you know, conveying systems. Now I get into my plumbing. So you could scroll through and try to find your item. They're sorted by uniformat number. So if you know you're looking for D's, you could just scroll down to the bottom. I can search, use this search bar here. So if I type in panel again, it'll pop up anything that just has the word panel in it. The other way, and then you'll just make your selection. The other way to shorten this list, because it is really long, if I'm an architectural assessor, I can click on change what items I see. Now, by default, everything is selected, but I'm architectural. I know I'll never be looking at electrical items. I'm going to uncheck that. I know I'll never look at communication, fire protection, mechanical, and I'll keep unchecking plumbing, and safety and security. If you're an architectural assessor, I would say, let's keep architectural and civil, structural, ADA assessments, doesn't hurt to keep selected, and always keep other item. Now, the other item is important because sometimes we don't have everything. There may be some buildings that you look at that maybe we don't have, I don't know, the size panel board that is there. I don't know if that's ever been the case, but there have been times where we go out and look at buildings and we need to add uniformat items. The nice thing is, if you have other items selected, you can add the item in, send a note to Matt and myself, and we can contact the cost estimators and get a new uniformat item added and then move that other item into the correct uniformat item. If I am, say, an electrical assessor, I'm going to keep civil, communication, maybe fire protection, I don't know. And then I'll keep safety and security. So maybe I'll keep all those selected and I'll press update. Now, once I click in this search box, instead of the top saying A's and then B's, it starts with, I don't know why this is C10 interior doors. Hold on, need to make a note. It's weird. It's weird. That should not be in there. C1030. It just should start with fire protection, start with the D's. And if I scroll through that, it should just be arts, communications, and safety and security. So now if I wanted to add, I'll say, let me find a good one. Say these fire pumps. I'll just select that and it'll bring me to the short form or add page. Now this page was built to help quickly add assessment items while either out in the field or when you're at your desk and you're just trying to get some data in and get started on entering assessment items. So we just have the default fields. You have your type. So like I said, most of the time, almost 100% of the time, it's going to be left at component assessment. You don't even have to worry about changing that. You have your location. So you would make your selection appropriately. And then it shows you your BOMA life cycle expectancy. So in this case, fire pumps, BOMA says they last 20 years. Base calculation on. This drop-down box is for the date installed or the year installed. Now, for quick purposes of entering the data, we just give you two options. We say, is it the build year or is it last major renovation? And I'll show you what this calculation, it tells you right down here. It says the BOMA remaining life, so in this case right now it says 0, is calculated by subtracting the difference between the current and base year from the BOMA life cycle expectancy. So since we said, okay, this item was installed in 1956, you take the current year, you subtract your 20. Okay, this item should need to be replaced. If I select last major renovation, okay, they're saying there's 13 years left. Okay, it was installed in 2015. There's 13 years left for this item. This is used just a point of reference. Like I said, if this fire pump was, properly maintained, they did maintenance on it, this item may last way more than 20 years. There could be, I don't know, 30 years left. Who knows? You have your repair factor. By default, we say it's 0. Nothing needs to be done. If this whole entire fire pump needs to be replaced, I can put 100. Then you have your action time frame and observed remaining life. Now the default is 11. Your observed remaining default is whatever the BOMA remaining life, the calculation left is. Now on this page, what is very nice is if I change this to a 4, my page will blink and my priority will change to a 3. If I change this to, say, a 7, my screen will blink again and my priority will change to a 4. Now, that being said, if I fill out my description, if I use on your phone, if you're doing this on your phone, you can use your speak to text on your phone. You can use, your keyboard if you're at your computer, the same exact thing. You could use your dictation that's on your laptop, or you could type in whatever. But if I change my priority here to a 1, it will not go back and do the reverse logic. Because for example, for a priority 1, my action time frame can either be 0 or it can be 1. The same thing if I choose a 3, my action time frame will stay at 7, but I know logically for priority 3, your action time frame should be between 3 and 5 years. On this page, there is no validation, so it will let you add it like this. Like I said, this was just to help get the information into the software, and then once you get into the long form page and start QA/QCing your data, adding more information, that's when we figured validation was really important. Then I have my category, so I'm going to select fair. Then you have your quantity. So it tells you your units of measure. In this case, I picked another each item, and then the unit of cost. So this tells you that the action cost is calculated by taking the product of the quantity and the unit cost and applying the repair factor. There's also this assumption that gets filled in here. Honestly, this looks like gibberish to me. I'm assuming these is pump sizes, 750 gallons per minute. I'm assuming that's what GPM is. It's saying that it should be $66,000, 1,000 gallons per minute should be 71. So it's saying that based on what size the fire pump is, you should adjust the unit cost. Not every item has this assumption. Sometimes there'll be no assumptions. Sometimes it will just say, okay, maybe it's I don't even know, like a piping record, like a water piping, I don't know. It may say, okay, this is for, I don't know, iron pipes. That's a bad example because I have no idea if that's actually accurate. But so as you're looking at items, you'll see that the assumptions are different. Now there is some assessor comment. So if I know this on this page, we only give a description. If you want to add like what a brief, what the issue is, maybe it's, fire pump is cracking. So you would just type in cracking or whatever. You can upload images to this page. The other nice thing about this page and this page is if your location is entire building, and your units of measure is building gross square foot, your quantity will be populated with the building gross square foot for that building. So if that building gross square foot is not filled in on the general information section, then the quantity would stay at 1. But if it is filled in, it would populate correctly. You have a couple of different add options. If I press add and new, it will add this item and bring me back to the add page. So if I uploaded images to that assessment item, and press add a new, it would add the assessment item, add the images to that assessment item, and bring me back to this page. And every time I'm clicking this add button, I'm going to have to delete these. If I click add and edit, well, I'm going to skip that. If I press cancel, it will not add this item and bring me back to the main building page where it shows you the disciplines. If I click add and edit, it's going to add the assessment item and bring, oh, this is a bad example, bring me to the long form page. Now, this is where I can say, okay, this item actually wasn't installed in 2015. It was installed in 2020. Now, I'm saying this was a bad example because we do not have any default critical issues or recommendations that get populated. But you can sort of see what, critical issues or recommendations. You can see in the description, we do have some default. So it says, okay, this is a fire pump. And then there are a couple of different options. Is it single stage fire pump? Is it a dual stage? Maybe it was a single stage fire pump with a jockey pump. So I'm going to delete what is not needed. And I could even delete that first sentence and type that and leave it at that. If none of those options were correct, delete the whole entire thing. The same thing goes with your critical issues and recommendations. Delete the whole entire thing and type in what is appropriate. So there's that. And then I can just now, if I go through, so like I said, priority 3, my action time frame is not correct. I'm just going to scroll to the bottom and press save record. So it gives me this validation error. And this says 0.2. This has to get changed. It should just say 3 to 5. It's the database side is weird the way we have those fields. So this should say 3 to 5. If I scroll up to the up here, now if I change this to a 3 and I press save, it is saved successfully. I think it's, so the other way to save an item is on your keyboard, we have a shortcut. If you press Alt S, so if I press Alt S, and I'll move my mouse so it doesn't look like I'm actually pressing it. Alt S, it saved it. So that is a short little keyboard hack that we did in the software. I'm going to delete this item. I'm going to press delete. Delete. It's going to ask me if I want to delete it. Yes, I know I want to delete this item. It's going to delete it and bring me back to this page here. Now I have to find the other fire pump because it's right here. I do not need this item in here. So I know that I added this item, but I'm going to verify it and scroll down to the bottom. Yup, I added it at 5:27 on 5:27, which is today. I'm going to delete this. So I'll do the same exact thing. I'll press the delete button and I'll press OK. So that is assessment items. One other thing. Now, if I scroll down, you'll see that there is this hide button here. If I make that selection, it'll hide my inventory. If I uncheck it, it'll show it. Now, by default, my history is hidden. Now, if you know, like for most assessors don't need to see the history information. Usually our assessments are on new projects that will not have any history information. Right now we're doing Denver Public Schools. I don't think Denver Public Schools is going in and making any updates, so there should be no history information also. But to make it so that the default is a hidden for history and for additional inventory fields, what you will want to do is go to accounts. This is where if you want to change your password, you can click change password and it'll ask you to enter in your email address. And I think you can change it. I believe that you'll just ask for a new password and one will get sent to you. You can change your name if maybe you get married and your name changes. You can see that I have expand inventory fields checked and expand history fields unchecked. That is why my additional inventory fields were shown and my history was always hidden. So if I uncheck that and press the save button, it's going to bring me back to the main page. I'm going to quickly navigate down to an assessment item. Go back to agricultural admin, and I'll go into architectural and just open up one. So if I scroll down, you can see my additional inventory fields. When I open it, it's hidden. The same exact thing with history. So that's just a little feature we've recently added that helps scrolling to a minimum on this page, which is nice. But I'll go back to the building. Now those asset tracking items, like I said before, and which showed you, if you're in an FCA item and there are asset tracking items that are linked to that item, you can just navigate to those from that assessment page. The other way is if I go back to, if I click on asset tracking, you can see these are all of my items, and it tells you what uniformat item, what assessment item that these are linked to. Now, vice versa, if I want to go look at this panel board, I can click at that item and it'll bring me to that panel board. So these are just hyperlinked. I will look at this item. So I'll click on the tag number. So you have this tag number. This is the QR code. So I'm going to open up this image and I'll show you what that QR code looks like. Every client, when we do these, we talk to the client and ask them what they would like to see on their tags that we put onto their pieces of equipment. OSU wanted their logo. They wanted a barcode. Well, we will always provide the number, what the tag number is. And then we'll provide this QR code. So if you use your iPhone, your tablet, and go to the picture app or camera and scan this barcode or this QR code, it will give you a little pop-up at the bottom or in the middle of your screen. It'll ask you, are you sure you want to open up this website? And if you wanted to, you would press yes, I want to open this website. Then what this would allow you to do is if you've never logged into the software, you could log into the software. So this will prevent, that login screen will prevent people who do not have access to the software to access these pages. Once you scan that QR code, if I scan that code, it would bring me back. It would bring me right to this page so I could look at the details. You have an additional tag number. So if there was another tag that was on this panel board, you could populate it here, what floor it's at, what room number, they said corridor, the equipment class, the name. So in this case, panel L3A, the manufacturer, model number, serial number, additional location information, capacity, power, voltage, all that good stuff. If it's, you link it to an assessment item, if this item was not linked, instead of saying remove link and having this listed here, this would say link to an assessment item. And I'll look for an item that isn't linked. You have your comments. So if you have any other information you want to add, and just like the other uploads, you can upload, you'll upload your images for these panel boards, or for this one panel board, I should say. And then if there's any other documents that they want us to upload for this specific item. Now there are a couple of buttons that we can add and delete with. So cancel if I don't want to save anything. Delete asset. If you want to delete it, it'll ask you, are you sure you want to delete it? Yes, I want to delete. No, please don't delete it. Save and copy, save and new, and save and list. What save and list will do is it'll save this item and bring us back to this list, the list page. What save and new will do is it'll save this item. And the only reason I'm not pressing save is my name will be attached to this record. And I personally don't want that because I don't want to change anything. So save and new, what that'll do is it'll save this item and it'll clear out all of these fields. It'll remove the images from this page, remove this link, and it will increase or add 1 to this FOSS tag number. So it'll be 138. if I click save and copy, what it'll do is, and it'll tell you this keyboard shortcut is Alt S as well. It will remove the images, but keep everything else. It'll keep the link, it'll keep your voltage, where it's located, and it will increase the tag by 1. This is just assuming that you're adding one tag right after another. If this tag, you're adding another panel board and you know that the tag was incorrect, you just delete that and add the correct tag number. But I'm going to press cancel. Now nothing will be saved. And let me try to find, there may not be any assessment items. Actually, I can just do this. To add an assessment item or add an asset tracking item, you just press add asset and everything is blank. So you'll just fill in your correct fields. This tag number cannot be duplicated within this client. So I forgot what it was. I think it was So if I try to save this, save and list, it's going to give me this validation error and says this tag already exists within this portfolio. So within this client, this tag already exists. Now, that's important to know because that QR code is it's a URL. That's the difference between a barcode and a QR code. Barcode is usually just a number or a set of letters. A QR code is a URL that will bring you to a website. So you only can have one of those, this number, because that's part of the URL in that FOSS tag number. To link to an assessment item, you'll just press link to an assessment item. No. Link to an assessment item. And it gives me this glorious tag number that I just added, and it will show you your assessment items. Now, what is important to note is that since I, on that add section, took off architectural and structural and mechanical, I think I did unchecked mechanical. This drop down box will only show me fire protection and electrical items, whatever I have selected in here. So it tells you what the item is, where it's located, and that unique identifier. Now, if I wanted to add this item to an architectural item, I would just change what I see. If I check everything and press update, now I'll see the architectural and structural and mechanical items all in here. So I would just make this selection, click link and save. Now this item has been linked to that assessment item. To remove it, I just remove it. It's just a link, it's not going to affect, removing the link will not delete that assessment item or anything, so don't worry about that. If I want to delete this asset tag, I just press delete. It'll say confirm down below or cancel. I'll press confirm because I know I want to delete this item. Now that item is deleted, I don't have to worry about going back and deleting it. Does anybody have any questions about that?
I do not.
For the asset tags, there's an option to print asset tags here. For this training, I won't go through that because you will never have, as an assessor, will never have to worry about printing asset tags. Matt and I give Andrew or Kathy Rieger the URL for all the assessment items or for those asset tags, and they print them and we just provide you with the tags. You can download this file to an Excel document and QA/QC it in Excel instead of having to go line by line here. Now, I know that was a lot. There's just one other thing I want to show you. So I'll give you a brief overview over planning, KPIs, estimating, and admin. Planning, what this tool, what this software allows us to do is, do our facility condition assessments and then hand it over to our clients where then they are able to do some facility condition target, what do I want to say, exercises. They're able to create budgets, capital improvement plans, and projects using the facility condition assessment items that we have created. They're allowed to bundle them together. So that's what the planning does. The KPI tool is new. This allows us to do various studies, whether it's educational adequacy study, a sustainability study, or whatever other study that the client wants to do. Now, estimating is currently under development, and this is going to allow us to do some more in-depth estimating for the client. Admin. You probably won't have access to admin, but this is where we're able to batch run reports. If you ever need access to batch run reports, we can give you access to that, set up the KPI templates, some estimating administrative options that are currently being developed, and some other, manage users, create client defined fields. So this is where that allows us to do that. Now reports, you will have access to this report module. And I think you'll have access to everything, planning, KPI, and estimating. But this report module allows us to generate deliverable reports and one-off reports. So your QA/QC Excel files you can generate from here. And like I said, the deliverable report. Now, what is important to know also is that there is no outside software report that usually will get generated for a client. So if you're doing a facility condition assessment, all of the information needs to go into this software, or else the report will not be correct. So you will never have to generate this report and make edits into the PDF. If you or someone that you're working with runs a deliverable report and is making manual edits, just a friendly reminder, hey, I thought we weren't supposed to be doing that. Maybe we should call Matt and Kara to figure out what we can do so we don't have to do these manual edits. In the long run, would be way easier for us to make those changes in the back end, so you will never have to do those again. If you accidentally pressed, there are 7 panel boards instead of 8, and you need to go back into the software and make those edits instead of doing those into the PDF, because there's a lot of numbers that will end up changing. But all
I
you
love
would
that. This is just a friendly reminder. Should I put that in the manual like that?
yeah,
friendly reminder.
So we did break out reports into a couple of different sections. You have ECM, which you will have access to, but in Ohio State, if you ran this report, it would be blank. You have Excel reports, a couple of good Excel reports. There can run any of these reports. There is this asset tracking data grid that will give you all of your asset tracking items, so all those asset tags. So you can run this Excel document here. You'll just make your selection. Now, based on what report you have selected in this reports dropdown, these parameters down below may change. Now, some of these reports are multi-building, multi-portfolio option. If you see a checkbox in these drop-down boxes, say I wanted to run it for the agriculture admin, you'll want to make the selection and press update. Your screen will look like it refreshes a little bit. You'll make your other selection. I'll press Columbus. There's only one option. Now I will not press update. Now this building drop-down box, my screen did not refresh. They're saying that there's no buildings in this site. Well, that's because I didn't press the update button. As soon as I press update, my screen does another little refresh. And now I see all of the buildings within that site or campus. So if I wanted to run this report for, say, these 3 buildings, I'll just make that selection, press update, screen will do another, refresh, and I'll press generate. This report should be pretty quickly to run. Your report will say download report. I'll make that selection. It'll give me this little pop-up at the bottom, and I will open it. Your downloads will always go to your download folder. So if you don't get this little pop-up, check your download folder, and that report should be right in there. This option here above building where it says select only assessments, here's the report. It's a nice little Excel report. You can sort and filter if you're trying to QA QC it, and then go back into the software and make your modifications as needed. This select only QA complete buildings. For example, this project has been going on for a year, I think, almost over a year. There are buildings that are in this client that we have not assessed yet, or that we are not complete doing. So our cost estimators haven't finished QA/QCing. So if I wanted to run this for only QA/QC complete buildings in Columbus, if I click that button, now this should actually only show me buildings that have been QA/QC'd. And then I'll press generate again, and it'll tell you that it's running, and this may take a minute. It shouldn't be too bad. And then you'll have to download your report again. There you go. So now if I do that, I can download it again. The other Excel report in here that we use a lot is this quality assurance report. Now, this report is, again, multi-building, multi-portfolio selection report. This is a brief little image of it. This report is nice. This report project managers use, I use frequently. I know Matt uses it frequently. This allows us to QA/QC in an Excel format, run spell check. If something gets messed up, maybe it's quantities or unit cost needs to be changed, they can make their changes in here in that Excel file. And then in the admin module, we can upload this Excel file into the software. So batch do changes, which is nice. A lot of the times, like I said, the project managers will run spell check on them. So the other reports are in the general section. Now, you will see these building assessment reports. If I scroll down, you'll see portfolio assessment and site assessments. Those are our default deliverable reports. Now for Ohio State, we have a customizable or custom deliverable report for them. These reports, most of the time in the general selection, are for one building. These deliverable reports will only be run one building or one portfolio at a time. It's just because they're so large. If we did at this page more than one building in one click of a button, it would take too long to generate. So if I select this report, now here, instead of seeing the check boxes, you just make your selection, update, the screen will refresh. Okay, Columbus, update. So if there's no checkbox, there's no update button, and it'll run. Every time you run a report, it will get saved under the these saved reports. This is just a report repository. You don't need to go through and delete it. So this is sorted alphabetically by default. So if I click on date modified, I'll click on it again. So the 2 asset tracking reports are right there. I don't really care if this report shows up in here. If I want to delete it, I can delete it. You just make your check, you just select the report and press delete. It asks, are you sure? Yeah, I'm sure. Nobody needs that. It was just an example. So you can see every report people have ran. This is an example. Let me open up this one. It's smaller. This is so if you're in here and we'll give you access to Ohio State, if I double click on it, this will give me an example of the deliverable report. So this is the primary image at the building level that has been attached to it. A lot of this information is stored at the site level. There's some fields in here that are dynamic. It paginates and creates a nice table of contents. Gives you your 1, 5, and 10-year facility condition index. So this information is all driven off of the information that's in the assessment. Now I'm going to scroll down. So you have basically your discipline tab within the building right here. You have some nice data grids, and I'll just scroll through. This is where you have your general observation. So for this building, they marked everything as 5 as being very essentially accessible. So that, you know, this page just says it's not a full ADA assessment, but just an observation. Further analysis may be warranted. If I keep scrolling down through this, there's some boilerplate information that we do provide. But like I said, these reports are generally big. This report for this one building is 262 pages. But as you scroll through this report or look at this report, you notice that it starts at the highest. It's just the overview. It's just the building information. It's the roll-up cost. And then you get into the boilerplate information. And then as I navigate down some more, I get into, okay, these are our results. This is the general building description, what my FCI data is, when we went out to assess it, the general description. So each of those text boxes that you filled in for the description get populated here. And then I get into different breakouts of the building. Okay, here's my structural items that are deficient. What is the cost? What's the recommendation, the critical issue? And these are basically different views of the same information. Then you get into the actual detail. So are there any asset tags listed? What or category did we choose? Location, remaining life, description, critical issue, recommendation, repair factor, and then all of the images. So the image that you see in this first little square is the image that is default. If you do not select a default image, I believe this shows up blank. And then all of the images would be showed here. So as you scroll through, this item actually had quite a few images attached to it. Then this is a panel board. Let me go to one. Okay, so this item here, this is a cooling tower. This has an asset tag attached to it. So this asset tag, this is the asset tag that they're saying is attached to this. So this is your FCA item. And then for Ohio State, you scroll to the bottom. So you have your FCA items, and then you get into asset tracking. So then you have your asset tracking items with the images attached and all of the fields for that. So I would take a look. I'll give you read-only access to Ohio State. Take a look at a couple of these reports that have been generated. Generate a couple of reports for yourself if you have any questions. I know that was a lot. So for a Friday, especially for a Friday before the long weekend.
Kara, just let me jump in for a second because I met Joe on Tuesday at Fountain Plaza. Joe, do you know where you're going to be doing any assessing?
I have no clue yet.
Mm-hmm. Well, probably, obviously, locally somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Is any of this related to what you studied? Is it all familiar to you, or is it all
Oh, yeah. It's very familiar. Definitely the asset tagging stuff that I did for the school in Oswego.
Oh, okay. Yeah, my son did that. My kids went to Lancaster School District, and both of them interned in the IT department when they were going to college. They worked for our IT department in the summer, and they were asset tagging every piece of computer equipment throughout the school district. for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Well, Kara, so I fortunately Matt mentioned this session to me because Mark kept saying, you know, there's new features and the manual needs to get changed, and I would imagine that the walkthrough that you just did would have encompassed any changes that have occurred since the manual was last edited, right?
Yeah, so we'll still have to get together and we would have gone over a majority of it, but we'll get together and we can go over the planning and the admin tab. We can go over that.
Yep.
Just because I didn't go over that because there's not a need right at this point, but we can go over some of the other things, and obviously if you have any questions we can.
I would imagine this might have saved you some redundancy though.
I'm used to it.
Just by luck. Just by sheer luck.
So yeah, so let me know if you have any questions. Joe or Pat, Matt or myself are here. My phone number, or both of our phone numbers, are listed in our email address. We're always on Teams. Like I said, or Joe, I'm in Syracuse, so I'm same time zone. Matt is in Houston, or San Antonio. He works remotely as well, so he's an hour behind. So if you can't get a hold of me, usually you can get a hold of him. If you ever are out in the field and you need to get a hold of me, like first thing in the morning or late at night, say dinner time, and I'm I'm probably not online, you can still give me a call. I have my cell phone on me. I'll answer. Like Mark called me at 7:30 in the morning the other day, and I wasn't working yet. I was waiting for the babysitter to come. So whenever you need me, we're here, Matt or I.
All right.
Well, you have a good holiday weekend, everybody.
Yeah, you guys as well.
I'm working Monday. I'm playing catch up, but I'm still not officially off of the agency contract yet.
Yeah.
So I'll be official hire on June 6th. So I'm going to work Monday on catching up on all of the little breadcrumbs that Mark has been dropping in my lap for the last 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And hopefully then I'll get, I'll just have a clean slate and be able to start fresh with, well, I don't think there'll ever be a clean slate, but I'll feel more caught up than I have.
Yeah. Well, let me know. Like I said, if you guys need anything, we're here. So.
All righty. Take care.
And Joe, also before we end this, Matt, if you have any like computer issues or like issues with your iPhone, obviously any issues with the software, reach out to Matt or myself. Matt and I are not Canon design IT. We're specific IT people to FOSS. So there are some things that like we cannot help you with. Like if you forget your computer password and log in, we can't help you. But if you don't know who to call, and Matt and I's number, we can give you the right, we can help you obviously get you in contact with the right person. Like if you need help connecting your computer to the network, and anything iPhone specific, Matt and I can help you with that as well.
All right, sounds good.
So.
All righty, have a good weekend. So long.
All right, bye guys. Enjoy your long weekend.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.